People's fascination with black creativity is nothing new. Black culture has always been valued more than black lives. Huey Freeman, The Boondocks.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mentality. It's your boy Gambo, and as always, I'm here with Simmons. Today we're discussing cultural appropriation. What is cultural appropriation? And what does it look like? Who is guilty of it and who's not? As always, we don't have all the answers, but stay tuned as we chop it up in another interesting episode. All right, welcome back to the show, guys. Drew, how you feeling today, bro?
Fantastic, brother. Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth indeed, my brother. All right, y'all.
Yes,
so today, in honor of Juneteenth, we talking about cultural appropriation. Drew, what is cultural appropriation to you?
Cultural appropriation is the idea that people from one culture, when they utilize things and features from another person's culture, it erases that culture from history as if these people are trying to steal it to make it theirs. For instance, white people with dreadlocks or listening to rap music and wearing, quote unquote, as they used to call us back in the day, urban clothes type of shenaniganery. Black people listening to rock and roll or going out for tacos and eating tapas or going to get Indian food. You know what I'm saying? People from one culture utilizing another culture, and people have negative feelings towards that.
Okay, so cultural appropriation to me is all of the things you just said with one caveat. When you do those things without paying homage or showing respect to the culture in which you're borrowing from, or when you try to make it seem like it is a new thing that you invented. That's what I think cultural appropriation is. I think what you explained in my perspective, I think that's just borrowing culture, which I don't have a problem with if you do it with respect and correctly. What do you think?
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a historian, but I could have sworn that's literally the whole concept of a place like America. I think they called us the melting pot. You know what I'm saying? Get a little bit of this, 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 put all together, make something amazing.
Yes.
I, for one, find things from other cultures that I fucking love, and I will take to my deathbed. This is some cool shit. This is dope. I like this music. I like this food. I like the way they do this over here. I like the way they do this over here. I think that's just being a normal. Really, like if you have exposure to cultures, it'd be weird if you didn't find things that you really, really like that aren't a part of your own culture. I think that'd be very strange to me. In terms of taking something and not respecting the source and trying to market it as your own, I haven't seen too many examples of that besides like a few, again, posts on Twitter. I fucking hate Twitter. I'm sorry. I haven't seen many examples besides some things that I've seen on Twitter.
Okay. So, do you think cultural appropriation is when people borrow culture? Or do you think is when they, I don't want to say steal, but, try to reinvent culture that isn't inherently theirs to make it seem like they came up with it?
I don't have a good example of trying to reinvent culture and making it seem like your own. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, okay, I'll give you one. The Honorable Kim Kardashian, I don't remember what year, was rocking cornrows. And I think they were calling it like something weird, like box braids, or something, like they were calling it something completely different, which box braids is something that actually already exists within black culture. And cornrows are something that already exists. And so, people, outlets were calling it, this is new and innovative, and it's this new exciting thing. We haven't seen it before. And people are like, what are you talking about? Black people have been rocking this for years. So that's, I guess, like an example of, someone taken from a culture and not really, I don't want to say she wasn't giving it the respect, but at least the media outlets, were trying to make it sound like it was something completely new. And she didn't, speak out against it. So that would be like an example.
That is mean, that's stupid on the media's perspective, but I don't know if you know about the Kardashian family. They run pretty deep with some black folks, so I think they are quite aware of some aspects of black culture. I don't think that's a knock on Kim Kardashian thinking that she invented a hairstyle. I don't think she go that far.
Nah, but I think she called it something different.
Okay. Have you ever called pho ramen or ramen pho?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, look at you, Mr.
No. Well, I
Asian
haven't. But here's
over
the
here.
thing, and that's different too, because it depends on the circle that I'm in. Like if I'm talking to my friends or something, versus if I'm a public figure and I'm putting this out into the world. I think it's different. Like my platform, while I'm in the circle of my friends, is very, very different from the platform that I would have if I was Kim Kardashian exuding this out to the world.
Okay.
It sounds to me like you don't believe or you don't think cultural appropriation is a thing.
I don't.
Okay. Why?
I don't. Well, not so much that I don't. I don't think to the extent that people say this is appropriation or not appropriation. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like if you want to rock braids and something, you say, hey, you go to your hairdresser, hey, I want to get box braids. And she does whatever she did to Kim's hair. And she's like, oh, box braids. Okay. I'd see that more as you've got your hairstyle names mixed up, because I might call a bob a pixie cut or something like that. And like, just, I don't know. I'm not a hairdresser. I go to my hairdresser and say, hey, I want this hairstyle. You give me what I want. And you're like, oh, these are box braids. Okay. Maybe it's the hairdresser's ignorance for calling it something else. Maybe it's Kim's ignorance for not doing the full dissertation and research on the name of the hairstyle. But I don't think she's going out here saying, look at this new thing that I did.
Here's the thing. There's a couple things that I take issue to with that statement. One, that we're assuming that, the hairdresser mixed up Kim's hairstyle, which I highly doubt that was the case.
I'm not saying she mixed the hairstyle up. I'm saying that Kim asked for her hair to be a certain way, thinking it was called box braids, and then the hairdresser just braided her hair.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, it's still ignorant. It's still ignorant that you would...
Who's ignorant?
Kim. For saying, hey, I want my hair braided like this. And then you thought it was box braids. That's ignorant.
How is that ignorant?
How is that not ignorant? How would you... It's like saying you go to a barbershop and then you really want, I don't know, you want a buzz cut. But instead you was like, hey man, let me get a top fade. Or whatever. Let's say, let me get a mohawk.
All right, but I like this. Hey, I'll go in and want to get a taper, and it does a medium fade. I look at my hair and I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, that's different, but there's historical context tied to this. And on top of that, when the media is saying, look, you're this new cool person who's invented this new cool thing, and you don't speak out against it, it's a little weird, if I'm going to say so myself. You don't think that's weird?
Not really.
Interesting. I guess we have very opposing views on this, ladies and gentlemen. I totally disagree with that. I think if, for example, let's take an even more drastic approach. If I'm white and I'm rocking dreads, which I really don't have a problem with, I don't care what you do. I think everyone should do whatever makes them happy. However, if you're doing it, I think you should do it respectfully. I think you should do it and show appreciation to it. That's what I mean. So if like a white dude is rocking dreads and, people are like, oh man, I love your hair braids or whatever. And people are like, oh, this is this new cool thing that you've done. I think it's incumbent of that person to be like, oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But, this is actually like a culture that people have been doing for a while. It's not, I didn't come up with this. I think it's kind of like reasonably acceptable to say that.
Well, yeah, but dreads aren't an exclusively black thing, though.
Please educate me on that.
Vikings had dreads. Anyone from the Nordic countries, when Vikings were real big, Eric the Red and all them, they all had dreads.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the historical context of that. I'm not going to argue that, but...
I mean, don't get me wrong. Most people who rock dreads aren't fucking Nordic.
No, my point is, like, where does it come from? I mean, like, who, like, where does it start from? I don't know the argument to that, and I don't really care about the argument to that. My point is, if it's something that is exclusively black, right, and you are rocking it, like, let's not try to make this muddled. Let's make this very simple and simplistic. If it's something that's originally black that you're rocking and people assume that you came up with it, I think it's pretty decent to just say, hey, I didn't come up with this. Give you an example. Like if I'm Christopher Columbus and I come here and I'm like, hey, by the way, I just discovered America. You should probably be decent. Like, well, I didn't really discover it because people have already been here. That's a decent thing to do. That's like, you can't, you know what I mean? It's a decent human.
But he did do that though.
Did he?
Like everyone says Christopher Columbus said, I discovered America. He didn't. He came back numerous times and was like, hey, there's people there. This isn't India. There's people here that no one else from here has been able to find. I found this. Like, Christopher Columbus is not the dick that we make him out to be in history. He's a fucking terrible, terrible, terrible person.
So he's the dick we made out to be in history?
But he's not as much of an idiot as we paint him to be. He's not as ignorant in that aspect of, this is a brand new place, 100% a brand new place, and all these people are Indians, and this is a new place that I am exclusive to finding, and I'm great because of it. It's like, no, it's like, oh, well, I fucked up here, and I'm in this brand new place. All right. This is a different place. You guys are in, you ever see like the Louis C.K. joke? He's like, hey, you guys are Indians, right? And they're like, nah. He's like, not Indians. Nah, you're Indians.
Nah, I know.
Like, nah, it wasn't like that. It's like he knew they weren't fucking from India. He knew it wasn't in India.
He didn't though. He called them Indians, and he was actually lost in his exhibition. And to your point, yeah, even if he said there are people there, he still took credit for saying, I discovered this. That's ignorant. You didn't discover something that someone's already discovered. Like you can't discover that.
He brought an isolated region of the world to the rest of the world.
Okay.
He wasn't the first one to be there.
So he discovered it
once
to
again,
people.
Eric the Red went there 300 years before that.
There were black people actually in America before that. There's been documentations of this. So
yes. But we wouldn't be having this conversation if Christopher Columbus didn't let Portugal and Spain and UK know, hey, there's shit over there. There's stuff over there. There's people over there. To bring every other resource and other person over to that area.
I'm really still not getting the point that you're trying to make. The point that you're making is that Christopher Columbus discovered America to his people. I don't have any gripes with that. But to say that Christopher Columbus discovered the New World is ignorant. To say that Christopher Columbus discovered the New World to the world is ignorant. And if you can't see that, I mean, I don't think we're going to agree. I think if someone is doing something, and again, back to the main topic, if someone's doing something or taking from a culture that is inherently is exclusive to one culture, and they want to take the title of on like that I somehow came up with this, or they take the praise for it, they take the title for it, I wholeheartedly think that's ignorant. I don't have an issue with you doing it. I don't have an issue with you doing whatever. It's like, I don't care if you like, do anything that's from like Chinese culture or Indian culture or black culture, whatever it is. But I do take issue to the fact that if you are doing it and you try to make it seem like it is inherently your culture, I think that's problematic. I think that's extremely problematic.
So, here's where we can agree, and this is the only, again, it's even though it's a very large, overreaching scope, it's the only genuine form of cultural appropriation that I have a problem with, and that's rock and roll.
Please explain.
Because rock and roll is nothing but black music made popular by white people, which again is fine, but they never pay royalties to the majority of the artists. Some big bands did. Beatles did. The Stones did after a while.
Can I?
Elvis like fucking never did for real. But
can I interject really quickly? And I don't want you to answer this right now necessarily, but isn't that technically what paying homage to, like, someone, with the hairstyle example that we gave is? You can't pay them royalties, but you just pay them respect or homage and admit that this is not yours originally.
No, like they literally would cover like Twist and Shout.
Yeah, it was
well, shake it up, baby, now. Yeah. Like, that's not a Beatles song.
I understand.
Don't pay them royalties. But the Beatles have always been good.
It's twisted, though. It's slightly different.
But the Beatles have always been good with saying, oh, no, like Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, fucking Isley Brothers, they were my influences since I started playing music. The Beatles only listen to black music.
Of course. Listen to their music, you could tell.
So was that cultural appropriation?
I don't know. I'm asking you. You're the one making the point.
I don't think that was cultural appropriation. But
You don't think what was cultural appropriation?
I don't think the Beatles ever culturally appropriated. I think Elvis definitely culturally appropriated.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to that.
No. We stand on it. What, the Beatles cultural appropriating?
Absolutely. I think they absolutely cultural appropriated Chubby Chuck's music. I think it's good that they after the fact, we got to be conscious of that. We have to be honest and say after the fact that it was brought to light is when they admitted to it. And they have said
No. Oh, nope. Stop right there. Stop the fuck right there because you're dead wrong.
Okay.
Absolutely not. From day fucking zero, the Beatles have said, this person's my influence. I want to aspire to be like this person. I want to play like this person.
I'm not saying someone's your influence. That's okay to say someone's your influence. But when you steal this person's music, say that I took that person's music.
But they didn't steal it, though.
They did.
They paid royalties.
To Chubby Chucker?
Yes.
That I don't know about. I don't know how factually true that is. Are you sure about
the
that?
The Beatles have songwriting credits for every song because their first 4 albums were 100% cover songs. From Please Please Me, With the Beatles, Hard Day's Night, and Beatles for Sale. They wrote their first original song on Beatles for Sale, 8 days a week. Every other song they covered.
So what you're saying is they paid royalty to Chubby Chucker when they took his music.
Yes.
Oh, if they paid royalties to him, and again, I'm not sure about the actual factual context or detail to that. If you're certain that's true, then I don't think that's necessarily cultural appropriation. I think if they paid royalties to him and they made that very clear that, hey, this is where we're sampling this from, I don't think that's cultural appropriation at all. The issue, however, is, like, I think you mentioned something that was very poignant to the fact that black music is popularized by white people who, in terms of someone like Elvis or even the Beatles, sometimes we typically credit them with inherently black music. That's the issue. So, I guess I won't place the blame on the Beatles necessarily if they're paying royalties and they're, making it known that, hey, we're taking the music from here. I guess I'll place the blame on society or people who are consuming that music and ignorant to it. But then again, I don't know the factual or historical context of what you're saying. So I cannot agree with that. But if what you're saying is right, then I totally agree. So let's go back to the Elvis conversation. You were speaking to that.
Elvis. Yeah, Elvis literally, he literally stole the songs, didn't pay royalties, and just fucking rolled that wave right to the toilet. So, fuck him for that. But, and it wasn't just black music. He did Spanish music as well.
Oh, he did a bunch of stuff. Elvis is a sucker, in my opinion. I never really liked his music. I didn't really have respect for him, to be honest with you.
But I don't know. Besides the music, I don't really have too many instances of cultural appropriation. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. I see people as, no, don't get me wrong, people appreciate the culture way more than they appreciate the people who make it, for damn sure. People love fucking black culture. Black culture is dominant all around the world for a reason. But people also know that it's black culture.
Do they, though? See, that's the issue, because I don't think that's true. I don't think a lot of things people do know that it's black culture. It's more prominent now, like hip hop. It's like what people think, oh, it's black culture. But like a lot of people still don't know that rock and roll is inherently black music. People really don't know that. I didn't know that until I was an adult. The whole Chubby Chucker situation, I didn't know that until I was an adult. Jazz, it's not white music, y'all. It's black music.
So is EDM as well.
I didn't know that.
It was derived from disco music, also black music.
Black music for sure. So I don't know these things, and I think that's like where a lot of the issue comes in. But I really am like confused about the whole hairstyle thing, because I think that's very it doesn't always have to be a business for it to be you appropriating someone's culture. I think it's just a matter of respect, and I think unfortunately when it comes to black culture, it just seems like our culture is always up for grabs, and people don't necessarily have to show the same amount of respect for it as they do for other cultures. Like you mentioned, they love our culture, but they don't really give a shit about us. And I think what that incites is we don't give a fuck. We can just grab this and we don't have to show any respect to it. I'll give you an example. Asian culture. You don't see people fucking with Asian culture. People like Asian culture. Really? They think it's cool, but they don't really fuck around with Asian culture that much.
What do you mean they don't fuck around with it?
Like, if people are gonna do Asian culture, they're gonna do that shit right, and they'll pay homage to it. They like, you don't see people taking Asian culture and be like, oh, this is our culture now. Like, it don't work that way. People will show respect to it, and I know what you're thinking, but I'll let you say it. I know exactly what the fuck you're thinking.
You already
know
know
exactly what you're thinking, though. I see it on
The
your face.
RZA, the
I already
Jizza,
know it.
old dirty bastard,
I know.
inspect the deck,
But they are
Raekwon the chef,
very
you got
clear
Ghostface
about
Killer.
that. Like, black people love Asian culture, and we are very clear about that shit. This is not our shit. This is shit that we grew up liking. We're very clear about it. But the issue comes in. I don't have a problem with people borrowing from cultures. To your point, I think it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous to think that you can't borrow from someone's culture. Like, that's the point of living in a globalized economy. That's what we do. We take bits and pieces of things that we like and we make it into something beautiful, right? That's reasonable. I totally agree with you. I agree with you. The issue lies in where you don't show either one, when you don't do it respectfully, like you shit on the person's culture, right? Like, you make fun of it. I think that's fucked up.
So yes, so like all right, is dressing up like Pocahontas for Halloween, is that cultural appropriation or just racist?
I don't know. I wouldn't do it because I think it's fucking weird.
It is weird, man.
It is weird. I wouldn't do it. Like, I wouldn't,
weird.
if I was white, I wouldn't fucking do blackface. And if I was black, I wouldn't do whiteface. I just wouldn't do shit like that because I think it's fucking weird. But that's me.
Is a white person dressed up as Mr. T, no blackface,
No.
cultural appropriation?
Ain't nothing wrong with that. How's that cultural appropriation? They're not
I don't know, I'm
disrespecting them. They're
confused
not
on
making
it.
fun of them. If they're going around acting like a fucking idiot, then I don't know if that's cultural appropriation. That's more racist than anything. That's not cultural appropriation. Like, the issue lies in if you don't show respect to it. If you do it and you try to if you make it seem like this is something I came up with, that's where I have an issue with. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Like, African culture, especially after the whole Wakanda shit came out. Like, you see people doing a bunch of African culture shit, but then they're not doing it right. So Africans are like, well, if y'all gonna do it right. Like, I think someone gave an example, and I don't know too much about this, but beads that people wear on their waist or feet. Yeah, I think beads that somebody wear on their waist is supposed to be like a sacred thing in certain African cultures. But people were wearing like on the outside, outside of their clothes. But it's like, it's kind of ridiculous. It's because like the purpose of it is very removed from what you're doing. As long as you understand what you're doing, I guess it's cool. But it's like weird for someone from that culture to see you doing it. They're like, you're kind of ridiculous. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so it's kind of like gauges.
What about gauges?
Like gauges are from Africa. They're from African part of African culture.
I didn't know. Like, you know what they symbolize, or
not in the slightest.
Okay.
I just know that it's been a tradition in some parts of Africa. I
Right.
don't know. Saying some parts of Africa is like saying some places in the solar system. It's just like so fucking big, man.
Let me zoom in because I have African heritage, so it's definitely West African culture, and I'm sure maybe East African too. The beads example that I was talking about.
So, are people who when people wear gauges, I would say gauges are more associated with like skater culture in America, even though they came from African culture originally. People who wear gauges nowadays are more into that. I'm just using skater for lack of better words. That skater scene essentially. So is that cultural appropriation at that point?
I think so. I think so because I think your definition before earlier that you gave is almost like erasure of a different culture's use of it. So like if I was a skater and I was rocking gauges, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Like I don't see a skater dude wearing gauges and have it and I'm like, man, why the fuck are you wearing gauges? I don't care. But is that cultural appropriation based on the definition that we've set? I think so. Because if you're rocking gauges and you're not, for one, we don't even know if you're doing it right, but let's even take that aside. Whatever, you want to do it the way you want to do it. Okay, cool, whatever, dude. You're doing it, but it's also like being associated to something that's not tied to the origins of it. I think that's problematic. You're erasing someone's culture by you making it seem like it's yours and you came up with it. That's a problem.
But I don't see it as erasing the culture, because if you only do things to the textbook way that the culture has always done it, then nothing's ever going to change.
But who told you these people want their culture to change though? That's your assumption of it.
That's the thing. You're not changing the culture because you're not taking it away from them. They still get to participate, but I'm doing this shit the way I want to do it.
Yeah, and that's like, even that statement, like, there's something kind of weird to it about me. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to participate, right? The issue I have is when people don't understand the origins of it, and because you're also not making it inherent, like you're not making it known, because you're just doing it ignorantly. You're just doing it out of whim.
So I have to go around, and anytime I want to do something from a different culture, have a sign or something,
No,
or explain
that's
myself
ridiculous.
to every single person.
No, that's ridiculous. I don't think that's even feasible.
So then how can I partake in these other cultures and not culturally appropriate?
Because I feel like if you're doing something that's considered to be quote unquote new, like the example I gave you with Kim Kardashian, like when people are saying, "Oh, you did something new," you stop it and you say, "No, I didn't do something new. There's something new for me, but this is actually something that's been there since before me doing this." That's where you show the respect. That's where you pay the homage. That's my point. You don't have to have a sign. Like Kim Kardashian didn't have to have a sign saying, "Oh, like there's that and third." Although, so like I would honestly hold her to like a higher standard because she has a higher platform. She has a bigger platform. My point is, when somebody asks you about it, don't try to make it seem like it's yours. That's like a dick move. That's like, it's almost like plagiarism. It's almost like, what's her name? Trump's wife, when she stole Michelle Obama's speech, and you try to make it seem like it's yours. No, it's not yours. Like, don't, when you get caught, just own up to it. Like, it's not yours.
But I don't think most people are walking around pretending
They're not.
that things that they do is their own. I
agree with you.
The vast majority of people aren't doing that.
I agree with
you.
you.
I think the vast majority of people aren't aware of the roots of some of the shit that they actually do.
That's my point.
And if you tell them, it's like, okay, cool. Didn't know that. That's really cool.
That's my point.
Cultural appropriation isn't really a thing then.
It is, because when it starts, at the crux of it, when it's starting, clearly for it to seep that deep down into like a new culture, into most likely white culture, someone took it from somewhere and started it and made it sound like it was new. And so if you're that person, don't do that. That's my point. But you're right. Like, for example, a skater dude rocking gauges probably has no idea that this is African culture. And they don't give two shits. As far as they're concerned, this is skater culture and I'm just doing skater culture. But my point is, the very first people who started rocking it, when they knew where they got it from, should have probably like make that known, especially when they're asked about it. That's my issue to it. For example, like when you brought up rock and roll music, a lot of people don't know rock and roll is black music. Is it their fault for not knowing? Not necessarily, because it's been seeped down into our culture for so long. But when those artists were taking that music, they probably should have made that known. That's my issue to it.
Okay. I hear you. I'm listening to you even. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that for $1. I'm really not. Because the issue doesn't lie within the person itself. It lies in the person who really cast that judgment. Because if you see gauges from across the street, you're like, holy shit. And then you just go and get it. There was no interaction between the two of y'all. So how can that person explain, oh, by the way, this is part of African culture? You just saw the picture online. You just seen this dude walking down the street and you're like, I like that. I'm going to get that.
What are you talking about?
Because you say, like, it's up to the person to explain, like, hey, this is a part of this heritage. I got this from here. And
what
to pay
person to explain?
Respect and homage. The person who has the gauges.
I'm saying, if you are someone who is borrowing from a culture anew, right? And again, we'll go back to like the musician example. If I'm Elvis and I'm borrowing from, let's just say, I don't know if this is true or not, Chubby Chucker. And if I'm borrowing music from Chubby Chucker, I should probably make that known that, hey, this is not my music. This is Chubby Chucker's music that I'm taking and putting a spin on it. Or this Chubby Chucker's music that I'm taking and doing something to it, or just using it as my own. But if somebody else listens to it down the line, like which is the example you're giving, if 30 years down the line, I listened to it or however long ago, and I'm white and I had no idea, is it necessarily my fault? No, I don't think it's my fault. But it's incumbent on Elvis to make that known. That's my point.
How is he going to make that known? Like in the song itself, or
it doesn't matter with how you let that known. You can't tell me that
because he could make it known. 30 years from now, I'm not going to find that audio clip of him saying, by the way, this is so and so, or I'm not even going to read the footnotes on the album cover.
I don't think information travels in one unison, like in just one linear way.
But that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, I'm not fucking defending Elvis here. What he did was literal theft. It was theft of intellectual property.
But that's kind of what other cultures are going through. That's my point. So how can you see Elvis and not see Elvis?
Because how can you make that known to everybody who sees what it is that you're doing?
So how could have Elvis not stolen music from whoever, from black cultures? That's
no, it's not.
Okay, so how could he have done it then?
If basically what I'm asking is the question that I'm asking is how can I make it known to everybody who consumes whatever it is that I'm producing, by the way, this is from so-and-so, when all they want to do is listen to whatever it is that I'm making.
Right. And my point is, we see that a lot of times today. If somebody samples the music, they put their names in the credit. They give them credit, or they say this is from so-and-so, or they even put a, like rappers do this a lot. Say, for example, Wayne is rapping and he takes a Jay-Z line, or even more notoriously, no pun intended, Jay-Z is rapping and he's bigging up Biggie. He'll say a Biggie quote, right? And he makes it known, hey, I use Biggie quotes to big up my brother. He'll put it either in the music, he'll say it in interviews, he'll put it out in different avenues. My point is, it doesn't have to be one linear way. So the question that you're asking can also be subsequently asked to you. How could Elvis not have stolen what he stole from black artists?
Because he's a thief.
You know what I'm saying? How could he not have done that? You're saying he stole it, but like your question to me is like, how can people take culture and not appropriate it, right? So how can Elvis have not taken culture from or music from black people and not shown it to them? There's not one way to do it. That's my point. You could do it in many different avenues. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to do it. I'm saying as long as you do it, you make an effort to do that.
Elvis, cultural appropriator. Cool. Got it. What about the white dude walking around with dreads?
You can't just say Elvis cultural appropriator and move on without understanding what that means, and then not understand the linkage to like the other examples we talked about. I don't think that's fair.
So when I'm talking about Elvis in the past versus right now, Elvis in 1950 records music, takes it from black people, records it and sends it off to the world as his own. That's cultural appropriation. That's theft. We get it. Today, in 2020, you and I know that, but the 13-year-old looking up songs on YouTube, they find an Elvis song that they like, and they go around and they sing it. Okay, this is Elvis Presley. Cool. To them, Elvis wrote that song. So, what I'm asking is, I don't even know what the hell I'm asking anymore. Because it's already, the money's, I don't even know if it has been paid back. They put it in the movie. I didn't even finish the whole movie. But.
I'm sorry, dog. I don't agree with you on this because I think you're picking and choosing, like, from my perspective. It sounds like you understand that Elvis is cultural appropriating because there's money involved. But it sounds like you're not bridging those gaps when it comes to something that money's not involved in. Like, it's hard for me to see where you're coming from.
Yes, that's nail on the head because money involved, it's a legality thing at that point of like you stole intellectual property more so than the cultural appropriation of itself.
And I'm about to go way extreme to the other side, but it's like you could say like, you know, the Europeans colonizing Africans are like not wrong because there's no real money involved. Like, no, it's like there doesn't have to be. Oh, there is money involved, but there doesn't have to be money involved for things to be wrong. Like, it's a moral thing. It's like what you do as a decent human being. Like, I even gave you an example of Trump's wife stealing Michelle Obama's speech.
That's not cultural appropriation, though.
That's not. I'm saying that's theft, and the cultural appropriation is theft. That's the point. It's wrong. You don't do that. It's like plagiarism. You don't do that.
But it's not cultural appropriation, though.
It's an example of what cultural appropriation leads to. It's theft.
But that's not what that is, though.
It's synonymous to theft. How do you not see that? You understand that?
Okay, Elvis, it's synonymous, but it's not the same thing.
Stealing music from black culture, and that's cultural appropriation. But you don't see
because you sell the music. That's the thing, bro. It's the thing. You sell the music. You're not selling the speech. You wrote a speech and said it was your own. It's not a cultural appropriation. It's plagiarism. Those are different things. They all kind of mean the same thing, but they're not the same thing.
I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm saying they're synonymous because it's the derivation of the same thing. You're essentially stealing. Just because you didn't make money off the shit don't mean you didn't steal it. If I go to Acme right now and I get a bag of Skittles and I stole it, did I steal it or not? Whether I stole it or not, did I steal it?
Did you culturally appropriate Acme?
Did I steal it?
From doing that?
Did I steal it?
You stole it.
Yes, that's my point.
Yes, okay. But it's not cultural appropriation.
No one said that's cultural. I'm saying cultural appropriation is theft. Oh my God, how can you not see this? Cultural appropriation is stuff, bro. Like, how can you not see this?
My dude.
Yo, we need a part
It's
two.
plagiarism, man.
I cannot. Wait, stealing Skittles is a plagiarism?
No, fucking no. Oh my god.
Yo. All right, y'all. Look, Mr. Simmons and Mr. Gamble, we're not going to agree on this topic. But I think all in all, it's a good topic. It was an insightful topic. Rest assured, him and I will continue this topic, this conversation in private, and we might record it for y'all. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Please, for the love of God, I would love to hear the masses, what y'all think about cultural appropriation. Is it even a thing? And if it is, what does it look like? And
please let me know, because I'm very confused on this, as y'all can tell. Because I'm sitting here, I'm lost in the damn sauce. Let me the frick know, please. Dear God, because it's pissing me off now. I'm getting mad.
We agreed on one thing, that Elvis is a cultural appropriator. We do not agree on the rest of the things. Thank y'all so very much for tuning in. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Please listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any major platform that you listen to podcasts on. And make sure y'all give us a like, leave a comment, leave a review, and share with your family and friends. And as always, Drew, I'll catch you on the next one, dude. Peace.
Deuces. Fuck Elvis.